In the next few moments, I'm going to show you how to predict the future of real estate by using predictive analysis and AI. And most importantly, you get to choose the sellers that you work with on your terms because you have an abundance of listings available to you. You see, what's interesting to me is most agents will take listings just because particular sellers want to work with them. Or they will sit down at a listing appointment and they'll have this listing appointment booklet this thick and hope, beg, pray that they ultimately get a listing. So I'm going to show you a way that you can show up at a listing appointment. You will command the room in regard to the tools, the resources, and the value proposition that you offer to the sellers. To understand the mindset of a seller, we have to look no further than the seller's net sheet, the bottom line. At the end of a day, a seller is going to ask a couple questions of themselves during a listing appointment. 1, do I like you? 2, do I trust you? And most importantly, 3, do I believe that you can do the job of getting my home sold? Your role, your goal in the listing presentation is to convince the sellers that you are the right person for the job, that you have the skill set, the ability, the tools, the resources, and most importantly, the integrity and the transparency to get the job done. In regard to the ability to predict the future and get the home sold for top dollar, well, that's where this training comes in. We're going to use predictive analysis to create our ideal client prototype, also known as a customer avatar. Here's what this looks like, and it's super simple. We're going to use a couple tools. Chef's choice, use what you want. ChatGPT is top of the list. Claude is at the top of the list. XAI is at the top of the list. These are the top 3 for me, but you can use any large language model or AI that you enjoy working with. But for sake of discussion, let's say we're opening up ChatGPT, and here's my question. I'm going to pop in a property address and say, based on this property address, create me the ideal client prototype on who's most likely to buy this property. Include their income, their potential occupation, how far away from the property they actually work, what are their hobbies, their interests, and where may they be found when they are not working and at home, and where would they currently or possibly be living now? I'm going to ask these 7 questions in my engineering of the artificial intelligence, and it is going to generate our ideal client prototype. It's going to say our prototype is in this occupation. They generate X amount of dollars. They typically have these sort of hobbies. They're potentially renting in this neighborhood or they own in this neighborhood. They maybe work in this particular area. Don't believe me? Try it. At the end of this video, punch in those exact prompts. In fact, I'm going to put the prompt at the bottom of the comments here. Go ahead and copy and paste that prompt, put it in your favorite large language model, and afterwards come back in the comments and let me know, hey, it worked. But going back to this and creating your ideal client prototype, that's great for identifying the buyer of the property. Now, how does this work in regards to the listing? Well, let's role play a little bit. Let's pretend you're going into a listing appointment prior to watching this video. What are you going to take? Obviously, you're going to take a contract. You're going to take your marketing book and your portfolio. You're going to take maybe some company materials and some brokerage materials and a CMA. So you're going to go to your listing appointment and you're going to do your best to get that listing. And ultimately, the question is going to come up, what are you going to do to get my property sold? Well, maybe you go through your marketing flip book and show them all the great things you do. Maybe you show them the advertising that you pay for, professional photography, you put in the multiple listing service, all the tools and resources that 99.99% of realtors utilize, meaning you don't have a unique selling proposition. Now, I come along after you in regard to my listing presentation, and I have all the same tools. But when they ask the question, what am I going to do to get the property sold? I quietly fold and put away the coffee table book, and I look at the client and I say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I utilize artificial intelligence and predictive analysis to create our ideal client prototype. And by identifying this unique ideal client prototype, I'm able to find this buyer where they work, where they live, where they spend their recreational time. I'm able to geo-target them and find them on their cell phone. I market to them on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all while utilizing geo-targeting in regard to where they're at in their physical location, 1, and 2, ideally who they are in regard to income, occupation, hobbies, and interest. Clearly, when I make this statement during a listing presentation, this look of confusion is going to come over the sellers. But then I simplify it and say, I utilize technology to identify who's most likely to buy your property, and I market to that person directly. So your home is going to show up as a marketing piece in their social media on their phone, targeted at your ideal buyer that I believe to be the ideal client prototype of who's going to buy this property. Now, just for the sake of discussion, let me share with you who I believe the client prototype of who's going to buy this property. Guess what? Our listing presentation has now gone this whole different route. Versus me selling myself and my services, I now have the listing, the client, the sellers engaged in the process of who is this prototype? Who is this mystery person or couple or family that's going to buy the property? And now we collectively together are going through the process of identifying this prototype. And then I explain the marketing material, marketing program, and the process. Guess what? It makes the process engaging. It makes the process fun. And it is 1,000% different than what anybody else is doing out there. So when all is said and done, we go ahead and secure that listing. We go back to the office and we start our marketing plan. We obviously do the usual steps of getting the property into the MLS, getting the flyers printed, getting the open house scheduled, and getting the property marketed out to the greater brokerage community, as well as our own individual brokerage. Now we start targeting our buyers that predictive analysis has identified as our potential buyers. We hop onto Facebook, we hop onto Google, and we start setting up our ads campaigns. And through our ads campaigns, we're going to target folks by their location, also known as geotargeting. We're going to target them by their income, their occupation, and where they may be in regard to hobbies on the weekends when they're not working. Is it an equestrian center nearby? Is there a shooting range nearby? Are there soccer fields nearby? There's a lot of things that we can do to tweak our marketing and our advertising to really hone in on that ideal client. But that's very specific. Even occupation, income, and geo-targeting is enough to find our ideal client. So with that said, we've secured the listing. Now we're targeting the buyer and putting our listing in and on the phone of our ideal buyer into their social media so that they see us as the agent that represents them in this particular area, 1. 2, we also promote our listing and offer the ability to get it sold to the ideal client prototype. With that said, team, this is the most powerful tool that we've had in our arsenal in regard to being able to list properties, to predict the future of real estate, ultimately generate a pool of buyers that are ready, willing, and able and are looking for our properties. If you have additional questions, take a look in the description. I do have the prompt engineering on what you can put into the AI, the specific script. You can simply copy and paste it. Please put in the comments your results and whether this worked for you or not. If you have questions, comments, concerns, you need coaching, or you're interested in joining my team/organization, go ahead and send me a message. I want to remind you that I believe in you. I want you to believe in you. You're extremely powerful. Now get out there and get after it. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.